Hello, everyone. This is another segment of Views from the Bridge. We are joined today by the brilliant Dr. Brandi Baldwin of the Calling All Allies Project. Hi, Dr. Brandi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Lucas. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. We're very glad to have you. So I just wanted to start off by asking if you could tell us a little more about the Calling All Allies Project.
Sure. So the Calling All Allies Project is a DEI innovation and organizational equity firm. We ignite workplace unity anywhere that we go. And essentially, we help organizations just make sure that they have systems and processes in place that allow everyone who is affiliated, whether they are organizational members, whether they're board members, employees, staff, and everyone in between. We want to make sure that they have an equitable opportunity for success and to thrive. And so that's our job. That's what we do. And it's been a great supporting and helping organizations increase their inclusion and their equity thus far.
That's fabulous. That sounds like very important work, especially these days. Can you tell us a little more about your role within the Greater Hartford Association of Realtors?
Sure. So, it's been great sort of starting the journey of helping GHAR become more inclusive and more equitable. And honestly, our job is really doing an audit from the top all the way to the bottom to really see how we can make sure that the organization is inclusive and supporting the members as best possible. So part of what we're doing is making sure to engage with the board in terms of equitable board leadership, also the staff and the team that's behind a lot of what the association does, as well as the committee volunteers and everyone else who really volunteers their time to support the success of GHAR. So what it's looking like in terms of our process is really step one, collecting data. You never want to launch out into a DEI initiative without the data. So part of what we did recently is we deployed a survey to gather perspectives from members. And essentially what we're going to do after that in terms of the rest of this initiative is going to be based on those who responded. So just know that we're getting a lot done behind the scenes. And we've had a great time just looking at policies and procedures and ways that we can standardize our operating procedures to make sure that everyone knows, the resources that are available to them. And that if they want to sort of rise up the ranks or become educated about certain topics, that we have that opportunity, available to them in the future.
That's great. That sounds like really cutting edge stuff and such important work. I'm sure a lot of our members have seen that survey, and I hope many of them have participated. Can you dispel any misconceptions about DEI work? And for those just joining us, DEI, of course, is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes. So, in the last year or so, DEI has been so overly politicized. This industry has been around for many, many years. It's a subset of organizational development work. And essentially, what we want to do is help people understand that, first of all, DEI is about not forcing anyone to get involved in these initiatives, but we have to honor the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have to be equitable. And so we want to make sure that, people understand that this is not about political agendas. This isn't about one group versus another group. True DEI has to do with bringing people together, creating environments where everybody can have their own avenues to thrive. And so we're going to honor that in this process. And we're going to make sure to do everything as a part of this DEI initiative in a way that is inclusive and that honors everyone who's been in the organization thus far and those future members who will join.
That sounds great. So maybe you could tell me a little more. I know your organization favors a psychosocial approach versus a more a social justice approach. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference and why the psychosocial approach is favorable?
Absolutely. So when you're thinking about organizational development, companies, associations, groups of people who are coming together professionally, that psychosocial approach is a close cousin to organizational development and its standards, right? And so we know that by taking that approach, collecting data, making data informed decisions, looking at policies and procedures and processes, we know that that approach works to sustain DEI in organizations. And so when it comes to the social justice approach, there's no approach that's better or worse, but we know that some of those strategies or tactics work a lot better in the community, in the world around us, with larger systems of change, that are needed. And so we're not going to apply that sort of social justice approach in organizations because we know there isn't enough research or data to show that it supports long-term DEI change and growth. And so again, we wouldn't apply a psychosocial approach to things happening in the community either. It just wouldn't work in terms of getting, a higher impact and getting things done. When you think psychosocial, psycho is about how we think, social is about how we interact. So what we want to do is get into the minds of how people are thinking at your association and figure out how is that impacting maybe some social interactions. And then we know that if all of us work to be allies or work to build our cultural competence, that when we're interacting interpersonally, or even as real estate agents, when you all are interfacing with your clients, you'll be able to adapt your behavior to make sure that you can get the deal done, but in the most inclusive way. So yeah, that's why we take that approach. It's been working very well inside of organizations.
Absolutely. Well, this has been very illuminating. Dr. Brandi Baldwin, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you guys. Looking forward to the work that we're doing together.